What is happening? Welcome to this course. In the chapter one, what we're going to discuss is demystifying anxiety. Now, what I probably understand that you're going through is you've reached a point in your life, in your day, maybe just this year. I don't know what it is, but you are sick of feeling the way you're feeling. And you've probably heard the phrase or the term anxiety thrown around a whole bunch. And what we're going to do in this course is we're just going to learn the basics so you don't have to become the expert, the scientist, or whatever it may be. You're just going to have the information to know all of the information you need for your journey. Remember, we're all unique, we're all different, but all of the basics that we're going to discuss throughout this course are going to help you demystify your anxiety. So let's get started. First off, we need to understand anxiety. We have to understand our anxiety, your anxiety, my anxiety, the world's anxiety. So let's just start with the basics. Okay? Anxiety, it's a natural response. Let's get that out of the way. Our body is supposed to feel this way. The problem is we're feeling it when we don't feel like we should be feeling it. And we'll get more into that. Because anxiety it's a completely natural response that our bodies have developed over millions and millions of years to actually help us cope with challenging situations or just uncertainty, right? It's our body's internal alarm system warning us of potential threats. So what does that mean? Something to keep in mind when we're feeling anxious. It's an important reminder that it's not a weakness. In those moments, we feel weak. We feel like our body's doing something it shouldn't. Our mind is betraying us. We're weak. We don't know what to do. We don't know how to overcome this. We're succumbing to these feelings. Remember, that it's okay. It's 100% okay. It's not anything to be ashamed of. It's a reminder that we're humans and that our body is doing the absolute best to keep up. The thing is, we've evolved since the time of surviving in the Serengeti when we're going to be attacked by bears, lions, tigers, oh my, right? Now, sometimes we're sitting in an office that's too warm and our anxiety spikes. Well, our body is still registering as if we are at risk. We're going to overheat, that there's an impending doom of a bear or a tiger or something coming to attack us. So remember, you're not weak for feeling these things. Your body and your mind are doing its job, even though we sometimes don't want them to be doing that job. Because when we feel anxious, our body releases natural stress hormones like adrenaline, or our cortisol levels in our bloodstream rise up to face what we think are these potential threats. Because when we experience anxiety, our bodies are just forced to kick into action. They release that stress hormone. And that's our way, our body's way of preparing us for what those potential threats might be. Our heart rate increases, our breathing becomes more rapid, and we might even start to sweat, perspire. Now, that's just a few of the things we experience. There's deregulation, there's derealization, there's like sweating, there's panic attacks, there's blurry vision, there's pains, there's numbness in our joints or in our limbs. We all experience numerous things, and right now might be a really good time for you to check in and be like, what are my signs and symptoms of anxiety? You probably know them pretty well by now if you've signed up for this course, right? Because have you ever noticed that you have racing heart, or your palms weak? Your palms are sweaty, your knees weak, your arms are heavy, right? Eminem is just describing what we know as anxiety or panic attack. It doesn't even have to happen when it's in a stressful situation. The fear of it looming or the fear of it coming can be something that just sparks, right? That's just your body of saying like, hey, be alert. We got something going on. So remember, it's completely normal. It's often how I look at it. Anxiety attacks, panic attacks are unwanted adrenaline rushes. It's a good way to remember that when you're in the middle of it. So what are some of the physical symptoms, right? We talked about the heart rate, rapid breathing, sweating. Remember, I've been there myself, feeling my heart's going to pound out of my chest. I'm feeling that I quite honestly am having a heart attack. That's what it feels like. I've been in the emergency room multiple times. I've been debilitated because of these symptoms. But the key takeaway here is this: these physical symptoms are just our body's way of facing the challenges. In the next module, what we're going to talk about is more of the science behind it. So right now, we're just getting a base level understanding. Like we said, we're trying to demystify and understand what anxiety is. And these are just a few of the talking points. So don't worry, we're going to get more into what the actual breakdown of the body and the mind actually are. We're going to keep moving with it, right? Ooh. Anxiety can be triggered by various factors, right? What do we have here? Remember, anxiety is not a one-size-fits-all condition. It can be triggered by various factors. These can range from stress and pressure at work, social anxiety, I'm sure you've heard of it. So these social situations that make us uneasy, and oftentimes forgot about, is traumatic events from our past, childhood, growing up, things we may have trauma blocked these things that have been consciously or consistently trauma triggers for our anxiety. Things that we haven't thought about or remembered in years. So remember, on the surface level, we can call this anxiety, but there's various factors that can go into not only what you're feeling, but to why you're feeling it. Let's take a minute. Let's take a minute to even just think about work pressure, because many of us we're working at demanding jobs with demanding responsibilities. And it's easy for that pressure to pile up and continuing to pile up without ever any of this relief that we're looking from anxiety. It's just swept under a rug. And all of this can trigger more anxiety as we strive to meet expectations and we strive to meet deadlines. So if you're someone who's at work and you're feeling the stress and the pressure and the anxiety, we're going to work through ways to not just get through that, but to recognize it before it happens, as it's happening, and what we can do in the moment to relieve some of that stress and that anxiety. Because raise your hand if you've ever felt the weight of work, right? It's a common trigger. It's okay to feel that way. I feel that way. I had to put all these things together, right? There was stress, there was anxiety, but that doesn't mean we don't do it. Doesn't mean we don't continue to work through it. So I'm really proud of you for showing up, being honest with yourself, and doing something about this, because you finally realize enough's enough. So what's the key takeaway here? Well, it's crucial to recognize and manage your anxiety. I think you knew that. Because when we acknowledge our triggers, when we are better equipped to navigate them and make choices that promote our overall well being and our quality of life, We recognize the stress. We recognize the social situations that might cause the stress. When we start understanding where these things are coming from, we're not just going to let anxiety take the wheel and steer us away from these things. We're going to start steering into them and overcome them. So the first step is understanding these things that are causing our anxiety. Because by recognizing the anxiety and its triggers, what we do is we start to empower ourselves to take back control of our mental health. Because once again, remember, anxiety is part of the human experience. And it's okay to seek help from mental health professionals, certified mental health coaches like myself, and other people in your support system that are trusted, because you're not weak. You're actually incredibly strong for working through this, not just by yourself, but with a team of people behind you as well. So, anxiety in everyday life. So, think about it this way. Have you ever had like pre-presentation jitters? Almost like you had it when you had to stand up in front of a room full of people and speak not just your mind, but on material that you just learned or are trying to teach or trying to convey that you are an expert of. Those pre-presentation jitters are a really good way to explain anxiety to someone. Because I bet you felt that nervousness, the racing thoughts, and even maybe those butterflies in your stomach. And I know one thing, I have been there. And let me tell you, it's perfectly normal. That's the thing about anxiety. You're going to hear me say that a lot throughout this course. It's completely normal. And even seasoned speakers or seasoned anxious minds, we still get nervous. We still get anxiety. It's a sign that we care about what we're doing, and there's also room to grow from the places we've already felt like we've grown from. Because honestly, there's a lot of physical manifestations that come along with this. Now, when your anxiety hits, it's often coming with those physical symptoms. You might notice, once again, your heart racing, your palms getting sweaty, your voice can even quiver sometimes. And these physical sensations can be overwhelming. They can catch you off guard. So once again, take a moment to think, what are your symptoms? Because these are very generic, right? You can look these up. This is a chance for you to reflect, like, what are my symptoms of anxiety? Once again, derealization, that's one of mine. I go numb in my limbs, my arms, my legs, I go numb. I feel very separate from my environment. I feel like I can hear and see my thoughts racing very, very quickly. It can be very, very scary, right? So take a moment, maybe you identify with some of those, and maybe you're like, I don't have it nearly that bad. We're all on our own journey here. So remember, what is talked about in here always related to your experience, because that's what this is all about, is demystifying your anxiety. Because the challenge with anxiety sometimes, when we're in these situations, it can be debilitating. It can cloud your thoughts, making it hard to focus, can hinder your ability to deliver a successful presentation, or even just go out to get coffee with people. Just perform your overall day. It can be very difficult if you have anxiety. And if you do, you understand what I'm talking about. Because when anxiety takes over, it feels like a constant uphill battle. It feels like, oh no, here we go again. It's kind of like your mind's starting to play tricks on you, except the tricks are very convincing. And in the beginning, you don't know it's playing tricks. You believe them to be truths. One, remember you have the strength to overcome this. And maybe most importantly, two, remember your mind's lying to you. And maybe the first time you've ever had an anxiety attack or panic attack, you felt a bit of betrayal from the anxiety, from your mind. It's like, how dare you do this to me and convince me that something is so horrifically wrong with me, and it's just a natural response. Remember, Once again, it's normal, but that doesn't mean it feels good. And the first step in managing this, honestly, is recognizing it. Recognizing and managing anxiety in these common situations is crucial because you have to recognize it's a natural response to something important. And remember that it affects us all. Those triggers might just be coming back up that you never remembered, or that you thought maybe there's no way they are causing this. I've gotten over that. All of the things, bullying in school, being made fun of, your parents saying something to you. We don't know what your specific story is, but remember that they absolutely can play a role in your anxiety, and we don't want to discredit this. You're not alone in feeling this way. It doesn't matter how experienced or how skilled you are, anxiety can still and will still creep in. But acknowledging it, it's the first step towards managing it. And once you start managing it, you start to realize that positive momentum is moving in a direction where you can overcome this. You can overcome this. So let's discuss some common fears that go along. Losing control of emotions, anxiety attack in public, anxiety that's affecting our relationships, whether that be romantic, whether that be family, whether that be friends. Anxiety is all encompassing. It's okay to have a healthy fear when experiencing anxiety of these things. Remember, we're trying to normalize this. So if it's impacting your work, your relationships, your social life, your inner emotions, that's normal. That's what we're working to do, is normalize this so anxiety doesn't keep its control over us. This is a big one: dependency on medication or therapy. Now, we all are entitled to our own opinions and our own journey. You have to find out what yours is best for you, and it's okay if the first step doesn't feel like the right step. We're not going to get every step right. So if you go on medication, you don't like the way it makes you feel, remember, there's other ways to go about it. If you don't find a therapist you like right away, there's other therapists out there. It doesn't just mean no therapy is good for you. Maybe there's stuff, like I said, speaking to a coach, a certified mental health coach like myself. There's different avenues to go about it, and it's really about finding what works best for you. I often compare it to dating. If you're going on one of the dating websites and you're swiping, not everybody is a match. Not every healing journey or every healing tactic is a match for you. So it's going to take some time to find out what your book is going to read of what works for you. A big one is feeling like you're never going to get better. That was a big one for me, as I just feel I'm stuck this way for the rest of my life. And remember, through the things we're going to talk about, you're going to start seeing that pinhole of light. And once you see that pinhole of light, there comes a little bit of hope that I can do this. There is another side. If anything you get from this, recognize that I go by somebody like you on social media because I truly am somebody like you. I've been through the things you're going through, and that's why I chose to turn around and do these things, because I recognize how hopeless and fearful and debilitating this truly is. And if I can get to a place where I can now help others and feel like I'm in a healthy place with my relationship to anxiety, you can too. Another big issue is it feels like it's leading to other mental health issues. If you experience health anxiety, you feel like your anxiety is leading to other health related issues, that it's just compounding and it's moving. Remember, that's normal. It doesn't feel good, but it's normal. And you might be staring at the screen or rolling your eyes or cursing my name by now for hearing how many times your symptoms are normal. Now, for the ones that don't feel normal, always see a medical professional. Always see a doctor. But remember, anxiety is going to trick your mind too. So always do things, and when the doctor tells you, hey, this was an anxiety attack, or we can't find anything, take note. And remember, the next time you feel this way, it can be anxiety. Let's discuss some of these common frustrations. Now, if you're just getting through this first chapter or this first module of the course, this is the home stretch of our first module. Feeling hopeless against anxiety attacks. Sometimes you can feel them coming on. Sometimes you're fearful of the fear that you might have one. That's anxiety. Remember, it's normal. It's okay to be fearful. What we're going to work on is demystifying to the point where we understand it. It's not that when we are fearful, we know exactly what we're fearful of and that it will end. And over time, genuinely or generically, or I can't find the word right now. Generally, there's the word, there's a G word, of when it will end. Difficulty managing the daily stress, finding helpful coping mechanisms, being misunderstood. This is the big one, especially maybe with friends that never saw this side of you, or you're fearful that you're going to be judged, or fearful that you're going to be weak, fearful that you're going to come across as not who you used to be. You're in the process of finding out a lot about yourself right now. It's okay if you do feel misunderstood, because chances are for a while you've misunderstood yourself. And that's why we're going through this. There's this feeling that we don't really know who we are. So as we're going and we're growing, of course we're going to feel misunderstood, because we are. And that's okay. We're in the middle of creating this newer version, this updated version of us that understands our anxiety, grows through our anxiety, with our anxiety. And we can start to paint that picture and become the artists of who we now are, opposed to who we used to be. Oftentimes, work or academics are affected by our anxiety. That's a common frustration. Difficulty accessing mental health help. That can be for financial reasons, or maybe socioeconomic, maybe just location, geographically. The internet. If you're seeing this, there's places, and if finances are a struggle, there's a lot of free resources, a lot of wonderful mental health content creators that create as much content as they can for free, because they understand the struggle. So remember, filtering what your feeds and what your social media who you're following and all of that is a great tool, because if you're surrounding yourself with content that's helpful, your mind's and your subconscious mind is going to start listening, digesting, and implementing. And the reoccurring anxiety despite the effort to manage it. There can be a lot of hopelessness, feeling like I've been doing this for months and it's not getting any better. Remember the trial and error of it. Not everything's going to work. And if you have gotten to that point where you feel like you've been doing it and just running around in circles with no progress, understand that maybe you've just been doing things a little bit counterproductive, or things that just haven't been having an impact on you. And that's okay. There's other ways, such as, like I say, coaching or acupuncture, meditation, lifestyle changes, medication, speaking with a doctor, finding a therapist you enjoy, speaking with a psychologist, a psychiatrist. There's things. It's just expanding our mind and what we know of it and continuing to grow, because remember, you're not in this alone. There's so many people out here that understand what you're going through, even though it feels like they don't, or I don't. We all know what that lonely feeling feels like. It just tricks us to making us feel like we're alone. So thank you, one, for starting to demystify anxiety for yourself, taking this journey along with me. And as we go over these things together, I'm so excited to enlighten you more about the inner workings of anxiety and why it feels the way it feels, and the reason it does the things it does. Because from here, moving forward, you're going to have such a wonderful understanding of what anxiety is to you, that this is just the beginning of what's going to feel like a whole new state of mind and a whole new life. I'll see you on Module 2. Take care.